grandfather, Lord Rickard. He was burned alive by the Mad King Aerys. That's Lyanna, my father's sister. King Robert was supposed to marry her, but Rhaegar Targaryen kidnapped her. Robert started a war to win her back. He killed Rhaegar, but she died anyway. That's where I saw father.
Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with some juice to get you through the long night. In the series I did about the Night King possibly being Azor Ahai and the Lord of Light and the Azor Ahai prophecy being a false messenger, I talked about memory, sorrow, and thorn. George was influenced by this book series. It's one of his favorite fantasy book series. I went over all the comparisons in the video and how strikingly similar the series is to A Song of Ice and Fire. It's not a ripoff, y'all. I know a lot of MS&T fans think that it is, but it's not. It has some of the same tropes, a lot of parallels and elements that A Song of Ice and Fire has. It has the Norse mythology influence, and George does say it was this trilogy that inspired him to write A Song of Ice and Fire. He doesn't hide that. His words are on the updated cover of the Dragonbone chair. But anyway, we are going to talk about something that jumped out to me during a reread of the Dragonbone chair. So buckle up because we're about to go for a wild ride through Westeros and Osten-Ard. So in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, we have the Scythi and the Norns. The Scythi are a race based on Irish folklore. They are like the elves from the Lord of the Rings or the children of the forest from A Song of Ice and Fire. The Scythi have cat features, green and yellow slitted eyes, and they move graceful and quick like a bird. So bronze men come, or the Bronze Era comes to Osten-Ard, and the Scythi and the Bronze Shepherd or First Men become cool. It's not until the Rimmersmen come with the iron in their fists that shit gets real. So besides their immortality, the Scythi have issues with iron. But the Rimmersmen come through Osten-Ard like the Andals come through Westeros. The Rimmersmen think that the Scythi are like evil demon people, and the Rimmersmen carve out kingdoms, and the Scythi are pushed back, and now they are no more than legend. So when the Rimmersmen or the Andals come through burning up shit and just fucking up the place, slaying the Scythi and all of that jazz, the Prince of the Scythi, the Storm King, turns into a mad prince. His hatred of the Rimmersmen drives him insane. He eventually turns to some dark magic. The Rimmersmen come through the Scythi's capital, unleashes like the darkest magic and incinerates everything. Like he brings on like a doom of Valyria. So the Scythi have like a sister race. The sister race is the Norns. The Norns are beautiful. They have blue eyes and pale skin, and they're just killers. They don't like men at all. They are still seen walking through snowstorms in the far north. This isn't Westeros though. This is Osten-Ard. But we are getting to Westeros. Winter is coming. So you can look at the White Walkers as a race that's actually a sister race to the Children of the Forest, much like the Norns. Those scary, chap-lit Carmex kneeling barefoot in the wintertime walking through the snow, White Walkers on a TV show, that's not how they look in the books. They're not like monsters, and they don't look like hideous monsters in the books. So George describes them, and here's a direct quote from George R.R. Martin. They're strange and beautiful. Think, oh, the city made of ice. Something like that, a different sort of life, inhuman, elegant, and dangerous. So in the books, they are tall, they have pale skin and eyes that burn like ice. But in the quote, he compares them to the same Irish folklore that the Scythi of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn are based on. So the Norns in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, they hate men. And so does the one prince of the Scythi that went crazy and used dark magic. And that's when Luki, the Storm King, you know, the false messenger, the Azor Ahai type. So the Norns link up with Luki and they plot to destroy mankind. So if something similar was going on in A Song of Ice and Fire, then that would mean that there could be some Children of the Forest, the extreme ones. Remember, we talked about different factions, and those are helping the Night King. Boom, White Walkers, extremists, children. What's good? But we're here today to talk about the Green Angel Tower and the Crypts of Winterfell and what in the actual Westeros is going on. So we're leaving Osten-Ard and we're heading to Westeros, kind of. So in Memory, Sorrow, Thorn, there is the Hayholt Castle. It has a layout similar to Winterfell. This is the Hay-Holt or High-Holt. This is Winterfell. And there's the Green Angel Tower. So the city actually built the Green Angel Tower, and it's the last piece of what was the city's stronghold. According to legend, that is. And I say according to legend because underneath Hay-Holt Castle was a plethora of pieces of the city the whole entire time. So inside of this tower is a weird throne made out of dragon bones and skulls and shit. But beside the throne in Green Angel Tower are stone kings. So I was getting complete Winterfell, Crypts of Winterfell vibes from Green Angel Tower and the Hay-Holt Castle and its long forgotten tunnels. So the crypts, as far as we know, don't contain a throne, and unless the throne of winter is down there. And it's the opposite of a tower, but it does contain stone kings, and it's ancient and connected to the children of the forest. We always talk about the Crypts of Winterfell and theorize on their importance and the importance of the crypts and the importance of Winterfell, but drawing from memory and sorrow Thorn, I have a new outlook on not only the crypts, but Winterfell as a whole. So Winterfell is the ancestral seat of House Stark. We all know it, we all love it, but how did it get the name Winterfell? So let's talk. The greatest castle of the north is Winterfell, the seat of the Starks since the Dawn Age. Legend says that Brandon the Builder raised Winterfell after the generation-long winter known as the Long Night, to become the stronghold of his descendants, the Kings of Winter. Brandon the Builder is connected with an improbable number of great works, Storm's End and The Wall, to name but two prominent examples, over a span of numerous lifetimes. The tales have likely turned some ancient king or a number of different kings of House Stark, for there have been many Brandons in the long reign of the family, into something more legendary. To the trained eye, the architecture of Winterfell is an amalgam of many different eras, and its vastness not only encompasses buildings but open areas as well. In fact, 3 acres alone are given over to an ancient godswood, where legend tells us Brandon the Builder once prayed to his gods. Whether this is true or not, the antiquity of the grove cannot be contested, and the godswood no doubt benefits from the hot springs that are contained within it, protecting the trees from the worst of the winter's chill. So Winterfell was likely built over time. The oldest parts are the first keep and the Crypts of Winterfell. The Crypts of Winterfell are said to be huge. The vault was cavernous, longer than Winterfell itself, and Jon had told him once that there were other levels underneath, vaults even deeper and darker where the older kings were buried. It would not do to lose the light. Okay, so there are multiple levels to the crypts. It's described as cavernous, and the lowest levels of the crypts are partially collapsed. How deep do the crypts go? I wonder. And where do they lead? Well, the crypts have some resemblance to Bloodraven's cave beyond the wall. The children of the forest were said to live in secret tree towns. What if the secret tree town is what Winterfell used to be? A secret tree town where winter fell, where winter was defeated. And every time a Stark king dies, his king's blood and body is given to the tree, and these sacrifices make Winterfell stronger. Catelyn makes a connection in Storm of Swords that possibly the Starks draw power from their crypts, or strength from the crypts. Let the kings of winter have their cold crypt under the earth, Catelyn thought. The Tullys drew strength from the river, and it was to the river they returned when their lives had run their course. So what if there is something down there that we don't know about? Many people have theorized that the Night Queen is down there being guarded by the Kings of Winter and so on, which is very possible, but what if the crypts are what makes Winterfell strong? The crypts reinforce the very ground that it's beneath and has power that hasn't been tapped into and has been forgotten over time. So there are secret tunnels and passages that no one in the story even knows about.
I won't make it to the wall. I won't make it 10 feet past the Winterfell gates.
There are ways. Hidden passageways built so the lords of Winterfell could escape.
Now, let me tell you what I think happened and what could be going on. So I've talked about this before. The children have these different factions, different tribes. There are some extreme ones and some regular ones, and just different tribes. The extremists create the White Walkers using dark magic. Dark magic almost always has some consequence. So they may have very well turned into the White Walkers themselves when they turned the first White Walker. Is there ever a time in a story that there wasn't an effect of using dark magic? We only see male White Walkers and we only see female children of the forest. So what if when the White Walkers were created, all of the male children of the forest were actually turned into White Walkers as well? And what if these people, this specific extremist tribe, lived in the secret tree town beneath Winterfell before Winterfell was Winterfell? And that's where they orchestrated the Long Night. And the Crypts of Winterfell were the stronghold, their last stronghold. So the children in the first men align. They beat them back, defeat them somehow, and send them fleeing north. But what about the people that were in the crypts, the secret tree town? What about them? Were they slaughtered? Is there some kind of magical weapon down there? Are they still down there? Like, could they be alive if they're still down there? Was the Night's Queen dragged back there to suffer in silence with the magic of the crypts keeping her detained? Does the Night King feel comfortable to attack now because the magic of Winterfell has been weakened? Brandon the Builder constructed Winterfell right after the Long Night to be the stronghold of his family. But according to what Maesters believe, Winterfell would have been nothing more than the Godswood and a tower and hot springs. Nothing to write home about. But it was never about what you could see. It was what you couldn't see. What was beneath the ground that was so important. And the blood and flesh of the Starks has been watering this heart tree for generations. Until recently. We have 4 Starks who weren't killed in Winterfell, nor did their bodies ever return. Brandon, Rickard, Ned, and Robb. I'm sure there were probably other Kings of Winter and Lords of Winterfell whose blood, bone, and body didn't make it back to Winterfell down to the crypts, but has there ever been 4 in a row? Is this why there must always be Stark in Winterfell? Well, Rickard was burned with wildfire. Brandon was killed in King's Landing. I'm sure Aerys didn't send his bones back. Robb was beheaded and discarded at the Twins. Ned's bones do get returned, but they are lost in transit. They are lost on their way to Winterfell. There's this whole storyline with Lady Dustin looking for Ned Stark's bones and swearing that they will never make it through Barrowtown because she's angry with him that he only brought Lyanna back with him when he left the Tower of Joy. But this is a plot point, and this conversation between Lady Dustin and Theon happens while Theon is showing Lady Dustin the crypts. So if A Song of Ice and Fire follows a similar route to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, then the battle between the White Walkers and man will end in the crypts, or at least at Winterfell, because the big climax of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn happened in Green Angel Tower at Hayholt Castle. I think the crypts are super important. They are one thing in the story that I feel I don't have 100% opinion on. Like, I have so many thoughts on Winterfell and the crypts and so many ideas just clamoring around in my head, bumping into each other. But I really like this idea and I plan to continue to expand on it. But what are your thoughts on the Crypts of Winterfell and Winterfell itself? As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.